Let's begin by coming into a comfortable seated position, whether that's on the floor, sitting up on a block or some blankets, or sitting on a chair. Find a position where you can feel comfortable and supported. And you can rest your hands wherever they feel comfortable, palms down or palms up. Feel the parts of your body in contact with the surface beneath it. You can have your eyes opened or closed here. And maybe gently shift forward and back and start to get a sense of your sitting bones against the surface of whatever you're sitting on. And feel how your sitting bones, the bottom of your pelvis, rolls back and forth, noting changes in pressure or sensation. And then start to make your movement a little bit smaller. And then come to rest where you can feel both sitting bones firmly grounded on the surface. That just allows our pelvis to come into a more neutral position so the spine can have a little bit more freedom to rise up nice and long, and there's less pulling and tension through the low back and upper back. Just take a moment to scan through your body, noticing where there might be areas of tension or tightness, or maybe where you feel open and free, or where you feel really good. And notice if maybe both ends of the spectrum, feeling maybe a little bit tight or not so great, or feeling open and free, can exist in your body at the same time. And then gently allow your attention to turn towards your breath. You don't need to change anything, but start to notice the breath coming in through your nostrils, becoming your inhale, and the breath leaving your nostrils, becoming air once again. Starting to notice which is longer, your inhale or your exhale. Or maybe they feel like they're at equal length. Where do you feel movement of your breath inside your body? Where are you experiencing it? Maybe bring your hand to rest where you feel it the most. Or if you feel it in more places than one, you can bring both hands up. And then let your hands slide to the sides of your ribs. And consciously breathing into the sides of your rib cage. Feeling the ribs expanding out to the side as you breathe in. And then invite that expansion to move forward into the front of the ribs as well. And then backward into the back of the ribs. So we're getting a 360-degree expansion of ribs as you breathe in, and a release as you breathe out. I'll stay with this breath for a few more rounds. And see if you can stay with your breath a little bit longer, but without the hands at the rib cage. Can you still sense the breath in the ribs? If your eyes are closed, gently flutter your eyes open. We'll let one hand come down to the floor or the side of your chair, and with an in-breath, Gently tilt to the right for a gentle side bend. Maybe the arm comes up, maybe it doesn't. Exhaling back to center. Inhaling, bending to the other side. And exhaling back to center. Gently linking movement and breath, moving at your own pace. And as you gently bend, notice what's happening with your sitting bones. Is there a weight shift side to side? Is there a lift, or do they both stay grounded? Just notice. We'll do 2 more on each side. And then we'll meet in center. Moving into an in-breath, the arms come up. And as you exhale, rotate your ribs to one side, bringing one arm across and one arm behind. Gently rotate. Inhale, rotating back to center. And then exhale, rotating to the other side, bringing the front arm across and the other arm behind. Again, linking movement and breath. You can always do this without the arms. And as you rotate, notice what's happened to your pelvis or your sitting bones. Do they move around? Do they shift? Is the pelvis really wobbly? Or maybe it's still the movement's coming purely through the rib cage and the abdomen. When you get to the first side, pause there for a few rounds of breath. And then on the next inhale, coming back up and across to the other side as you exhale, and hold for a few rounds of breath. And then back to center. And wherever you are, let your hands rest on your knees. We're going to keep the elbows straight. And then we'll do a seated cat-cow. So we're going to arch the spine, inhale, and exhale round. Or maybe your breath is the opposite. Maybe linking movement and breath. And let your pelvis move here. Let your pelvis tuck back and tilt forward. Only move as far as your elbows stay straight. If the elbows start to bend, just come back and make your movement a little bit smaller. Or if you're feeling some tightness or strain somewhere, just go smaller. Or just out of curiosity, explore, see what it feels like to do bigger or smaller movements. And then notice with how much ease does your upper body move around the head of the arm bones, right? The arm, notice how my arm's not moving, it's fixed because my elbow's straight. So that requires the rest of my body to move around the head of my arm bone, as well as the spine and the pelvis. If you have a hard time moving without bending the elbows, just be curious about that. Let's do a few more. Maybe coming into the arched position and hold for a couple breaths if it feels okay. And then into the rounded position, and we'll hold for a couple breaths. Beautiful, and then back up to center. Keeping your hands on your knees, we're going to bring the rib cage forward, and then to the side, back, and to the other side. Forward, to the side, back, to the other side. And then we're going to link that movement into a circle. I'm keeping my elbows straight, but you can explore and see what it feels like to do it with bent elbows or straight elbows, and then see if you have a preference. Again, you can make this movement as big or as small as you'd like. And then let's switch direction. Pardon me. Couple more. Good. And coming into stillness. Beautiful. Let your arms hang down by your side. And we're going to slide the shoulder blades up and down. So it's not drawing shoulders up to the ears. It's more of a shoulder blade sliding up and the head of the arm bones comes slightly forward and then sliding the blades back down the back. Maybe linking movement and breath. Notice what's happening in the shoulders. Is there a freedom of movement, or does it feel a little clunky, or is there some clicking going on? And if that's the case, what does it feel like to go a little bit smaller with your movement? Can you find a range where there isn't any clicking? And we can add on to this as well, taking the blades up and then squeeze them together and release them down. Inhaling up and exhaling together and down. One more. Good. Okay. Let's interlace our fingers, Charlie's angel style. And then let's make a figure eight in the air with our fingers, marking through our wrists a little bit here. And see if you can reverse your figure eight. I don't know if I actually did that right or not. Do your best. Good. And then maybe give your fingers a little stretch. All right, let's do a little wrist stretch. So bring your arm out in front and you'll use your opposite hand to pull the palm back just until you feel a very, very gentle stretch. Be really gentle with yourself here. And then turn the arm over and then press from the top of your palm. Give your wrists a little rotation. And let's do the same thing on the other side, starting with an open palm. And just notice your breathing as you do this. And then release, turning the hand over and pressing the top of the palm, the top of the hand rather. And then give your wrist a little rotation. I am going to grab a block. So you can use a block or the edge of a table. Let me turn this up a little bit higher. So basically you just need a flat surface. How are we going to do this? Okay. Remember how to do this. We're going to bring our thumb, pinky finger, and ring finger together. And then Actually, let's do one finger at a time. So you're going to bring all the fingers together except for your index fingers. And then you're going to let the index fingers, like the pad of the finger, rest on the surface. And then just like a gentle press down, but you can lift up your wrists. So we're getting a stretch through the fingers, through the knuckles. But keep your shoulders and your neck as relaxed as possible. So if you notice that it tenses up, just pause for a moment and then reset. Breathing gently in and out through your nose. Okay. And then let's bring the middle fingers onto the surface. And keep the neck and shoulders relaxed as you press down and lift the wrists. So you want to be able to tolerate the stretch in as much as that you can maintain an easeful breath. So there isn't breath holding, you're not straining, you're not and the neck and shoulders stay relaxed. And then we'll go to the ring fingers. Keeping everything relaxed. And if you decide to practice this on your own, you can always hold the stretch a lot longer if you'd like. And this can be a nice little break during the day, especially if you spend a lot of time on your computer or typing. And give your hands a nice little break. And then we'll go to pinky fingers. Ooh. My left pinky is really quite tight compared to the other side. Interesting. What is going on there? Oh, I feel that right into the palm. Interesting. Oh, the things we discover. Okay. And then to do the thumbs, I'm going to go to the side of my block, but you can probably still do it the same way. So remember, keeping the jaw, the neck, the shoulders nice and relaxed as you press the thumbs down and lift the wrists. And then give your fingers a little wiggle. Just notice how they feel. Beautiful. All right, let's do one more in sitting. And if you feel like you need to move or shift or come up to standing, that's okay too. So we're gonna bring one arm forward, bend the elbow, and then use your opposite hand to draw the arm, the upper arm across. So we're going to stretch, but we don't want it to come, your shoulder to come all the way up. So see if you can keep your shoulder level. And you might not, like I'm not experiencing a really strong stretch. I can feel something. But it doesn't need to be intense. Be where you can breathe easy. And keeping the head of the arm bone at regular height, we're going to explore rotating the upper arm. And if you're not quite sure, you can use your opposite hand to kind of help guide that movement. And you might find that your arm needs to come a little bit out to the side so you have more room to move. Right? And maybe your range is smaller. Maybe you're kind of in this area here. That's okay. You don't have to go all the way up and you don't have to go all the way down. It's just going to depend on what type of mobility you have in your body today. Okay, so you're going to rotate up and then create a little bit of resistance between your free hand and your upper arm, just pressing them together. And rotate the arm down and release. Do the same thing on the other side, bringing the arm out, bend the elbow, and then taking the arm just gently across for a stretch. And if you're curious, you can see what it feels like just to kind of bring your arm across and pull. And I'm just noticing as I do it, it feels like I'm kind of pulling my arm bone out of the shoulder socket. It feels like my blades kind of come across. And I don't know. I'm not really like feeling really connected with this. And like while there is some stretch, it doesn't feel great for me. Maybe it feels good for you, but for me it doesn't. But when I go this way, it just feels like there's more control. It just feels more control and more secure. It just feels better. So you can try both and see if you have a preference. And then when you're ready, you can start to explore rotating the upper arm. Getting a sense of the arm bone moving in the shoulder socket. And then you can hold and press the upper arm into the hand into the arm. Notice your breath. And then release. And then wherever you are, let's just sit or stand quietly for a moment. I know sometimes when I'm doing a task or even in my own yoga practice, there can be this desire to like get on to the next thing, waiting for the next part. Let's just go slow today. Maybe bringing one hand onto the belly and one hand onto the chest. And as you breathe in, send the breath down towards the bottom hand. And as you exhale, send it up towards the top hand. Breathing down, exhaling up. Maybe noting how your body moves underneath your hands, or doesn't. Inhaling to the bottom hand, exhaling to the top hand. If your eyes are closed, gently open your eyes. And then let's come onto our hands and knees into a tabletop position. Knees are about a distance apart. And then wrists under the shoulders. And I find after having done those wrist stretches and finger stretches, my hands feel much more connected to the ground, which is a really nice feeling. So let's just settle here for a moment, noticing your breath. And let's come back to this 3D breath for a moment. Can you feel your inhale moving into the back, the sides, and the front of the ribs? And know that you can sit back and give your wrists a break at any time and come back into the tabletop position. From here, let's explore starting to rotate the arms so the fingertips start to turn out. Let me move back a bit so you can see it. So I'm starting fingers pointing forward, and the movement happens at the upper arm, and that turns our hands out. I'm just going to go incrementally, a little bit at a time. And then pause. Maybe do a very gentle shift forward and back so you can feel the weight move from the outside of the palm towards the thumbs. It's kind of a really tiny movement. And we can pause and do a little bit side to side. And maybe there's a little bit more room to rotate your arms a little bit further. Maybe the fingertips can turn all the way towards the knees. Maybe they don't. Maybe bringing your knees closer to your fingertips will help. So explore. And then we can also add on, if you wish, a little bit of that forward and back movement. Now I find I have to go really, really slow, really small here. But feeling how the weight shifts from the base of your palm towards your fingertips. We can also do a little bit side to side, if that's available. And then starting to rotate the arms so the fingertips face forward. And we can do a little bit of rocking back and forth. And side to side. And then sit back and give your wrists a little rotation. Okay. Let's give our wrists a little break before we come back to tabletop. I'm going to sit with the legs out in front. If it feels like your back is really rounded, you can give yourself some support by sitting on a folded blanket or a block, a pillow or a bolster. The idea is that our sitting bones are grounded, just to give ourselves a more neutral pelvis so there's less strain through our low back. And then bend one knee. And then just pause. I have my hands interlaced around the front of my knee. Notice if your foot comes flat on the floor. Feel your opposite heel. And so maybe this is enough. Maybe you just kind of hold here and breathe. If you want to explore a little bit further, you can see what it feels like to begin to tilt the pelvis forward and bring the hands maybe towards the knee or the shin. And you can slide your heel away from you to get a little bit more length in the back of the leg. Just an easy kind of stretch here. Easy, simple. And then we'll come back up. Now, we're going to keep the one leg straight and the other knee bent. I'm just holding on to my knee now with my left hand. And I'm going to bring my right hand, because I've got my right knee bent, to the side of my left rib cage. I'm just going to use that to kind of help guide me into a rotation. So I'm going to rotate my ribs towards the knee that's bent. And I'm going to let that same side, so my right hand's going to come down to the floor behind me. And I think I'm just going to keep my left hand on my knee for now. I'm going to hold here and breathe. rotating back to center. Let's switch sides. We'll slide the bent knee down, and then the opposite knee. So feel your opposite heel now on the floor and the sole of the flat foot. So maybe you stay in this position. Maybe you hinge forward a bit, bringing the hand onto the straight leg for a little bit of a stretch. Maybe moving the heel away from you. So if you find it hard to breathe in this position, it could just mean that's a little bit too much. So I would just come back up and wait. And then coming back up, so now I have my left knee bent, so I'm going to place my right hand on my knee, left hand to the side of the ribs. So I want to find the rotation here, and then my left hand comes behind. So I haven't done any side bending or forward rounding or back arching. Spine stays neutral and the rotation has come through the rib cage. And then rotating back, you can slide both legs down. And then let's try this. Bring your hands into your hip creases so you can feel the front of your pelvis. And then see if you can get a little bit of forward tilt of your pelvis. So it feels like kind of that gap squeezes your fingers as you come forward. And if there isn't a lot of movement there, just note that there's not a lot of movement. Maybe note at what point your spine starts to round. And then let's just pause. If you want, you can have your knees bent, or you can keep your legs straight. And we're gonna let the spine round. Let your spine round, let your head drop down. You can have your arms resting on your legs or beside your legs. And we're just gonna hang out here. We're not pulling ourselves forward. Let your belly relax. Don't use your abdomen to try to pull your chest forward or anything like that. Just let gravity do the work here. Nice full breaths into the back of the lungs, into the back of the ribs. Belly soft. And then round your spine back up. Good. We'll bend our knees and let's roll ourselves forward back into our tabletop. Knees hip distance apart, wrists under the shoulders. Notice how your hands connect with the ground. And let's start to move into some cat-cow movements. So we're going to start at the pelvis, moving segment by segment up the spine. The head goes last. And then reverse, dropping the head down, rounding the neck, the upper back, the mid-back, the low back, and then the pelvis. Coming into the arch position, pelvis, low back, mid-back, upper back, neck, and then head. Moving at your own pace. Noticing maybe sections of the spine that feel stuck or tight, while also noticing parts of the spine that feel fluid and move with ease. I know I tend to feel more stuck through my mid-upper back. Do one more each. And then we'll meet in neutral. From here, we'll set up for a side bend. So we're going to take the right arm forward and slightly towards the middle. Coming down onto the left forearm, so your elbow's at the edge of your mat, your palm turns in. And then bring your forehead down onto your forearm. And pause, keep the hips over the knees. And then start to press out just gently to the side through your right armpit, through your right side ribs and your right side waist. Maybe feeling a little bit of stretch through that right side of your body. And then coming back up, we'll set up for the side bend on the other side. So this time the left arm comes forward. We come down onto the right forearm, elbow out to the side and palm in. Let your forehead come down. And moving out through your left armpit, your left side ribs and your left side waist. Easy breath through your nose. And then coming back up. Beautiful. Okay, let's come back down to sitting again. Sitting on your blanket, your block, or your pillow. I'm going to bring the legs out in front again, but this time a little bit wider. So see that you can get your pelvis in a neutral position. You can have the knees bent. And so there isn't a lot of strain or rounding through your low back. And then bring your hands to the side of the ribs and we're going to rotate the ribs side to side. Just want to find that movement. There shouldn't be anything happening through your hips or your legs. You just want to connect with the rib cage moving. Okay. So now we're going to rotate the ribs towards the front leg. And then you can start to hinge, so hinge from the pelvis, and let the hands slide onto the leg. We're just going to hold here for an easy stretch. You can always have a block handy if it feels better to be higher up. Right? You can still feel stretching the leg without hinging forward or rounding the back. The goal is not to reach our toes. I'm not rounding my back or dropping my head to my knee. Just maintaining length. Just super simple. And we'll come back to center. I'm going to rotate the ribs to the left. Let your pelvis hinge over that left leg bone. And bringing the hands onto the leg. Notice if there's any gripping or tension in your body. What happens if you relax into it a little bit? I mean, we're always going to have a certain degree of tension in our bodies, but sometimes we can unconsciously be gripping or holding in some areas that we can consciously relax just by bringing your attention to it. So that's what I mean when I say if you can relax. Sometimes we just can't, and the tension's already there, and so we work with what we've got. All right, let's come back up. Now we'll bend the knees and bring the soles of the feet together. Might have to come up a little bit higher here. Okay, soles of the feet together. And then just gently lift and lower your legs, just kind of like you're flapping your leg wings. Getting a sense of leg bones moving in the hip sockets. Movement can be fast or slow. Notice your breath. And then let's come into stillness. And then start to hinge from your hips and let your back round. Let your head drop down. We'll hold for a few rounds of breath. Taking a couple more breaths, and then when you feel ready, coming up. Good. Maybe giving your feet a little squeeze, squeezing the toes between your fingers. Just working your way down your soles towards your heels. Showing your feet a little bit of love. Alright. Bring the legs back together, and then let's come back into a tabletop position again. From here, we're going to start with the right leg. You can keep your knee where it is, but we're going to rotate so your foot ends up moving towards the middle or towards the left. And then we're going to hold that rotation. So it's kind of like the front of the thigh is moving out to the right. And then you're going to take the opposite knee behind the right shins. Let me just move and show you guys this again. Rotating the leg. Taking the opposite knee behind. And then we're just going to take the hips straight back and forward. Just going to shift forward and back. And I'm just going to reposition myself so I have enough room to move. And you're going to start to feel it, hopefully, in your right hip. So your left knee may or may not touch the floor. So it's kind of like a variation on pigeon, right? If we were to go all the way back, but we're not because we don't want to put that strain on the low back today. But we can still get into that hip. Neutral spine, just shifting forward and back. And it doesn't have to be a big movement. So then to come out, we're going to uncross the legs and rotate the right leg back to center. Now let's set up the same way on the other side. So the left, move my right leg out of the way. Left thigh is going to rotate out, and then the right knee is going to come behind, and then we shift back. Okay, let me reset here. Now we're just shifting back. And the right knee may or may not touch the floor. And if it feels like your hips are really going out to the side, make your movement a little bit smaller. So if you were to look down at your mat and there is a line right down the middle, your nose is going to track on that line. Your breastbone is going to track on that line. Notice your breath. Is there a tension in the mouth or the jaw as you do this? Let's do a couple more. Yeah. And then from center, we'll rotate the leg back to the side. Now we're going to go sideways on our mat, and we're going to do what's called gate pose. Now, for some of us, bringing the leg out to the side is really challenging because we don't have enough mobility in our hip to be there comfortably. So what I suggest is to bring a folded blanket or a block under your knee so your leg can more easily go out to the side. So that's just extending the length of your leg, and it just gives your head more space to move. Okay, so it looks like that. I'm going to go sideways. Okay. So let your hand rest on the leg that's out to the side, and the opposite hand maybe comes to your shoulder or the side of the head, and we'll gently go into a side bend. Where you can breathe with ease. So if you feel like you're holding your breath or it's a little bit too far, just come back up and go into it again, but not quite as far. And if you want, that top arm can come up into the air. And then with the hand on the side of the head, we're going to start to rotate your torso. Think of your ribcage rotating, so your elbow comes towards your opposite knee. It doesn't have to touch. Just notice what it feels like, the work in your abdomen to bring the right side of the body towards the left. And then we'll come back up to center and we'll switch legs. Hand on the side of the leg, other hand to the side of your head or your shoulder. And gently go into your side bend, be where you can breathe with ease. If you want a little bit more, the top arm can come up. And then with the hand on the side of the head, explore rotating your rib cage. Notice if your hips or your legs are getting involved in the rotation. And then come back to center, and then let's find our way down onto our bellies. If you're wearing glasses, take your glasses off and make a little pillow with your hands to support your head. And then play with the position of your legs. You can have your legs a little bit wider if it feels more comfortable. And then we're just going to start to rock your bum side to side. Let everything else soften. Easy breath. And you can always pause and take a break at any time. If it feels good, keep that rhythmic movement of your hips rocking side to side a little bit longer. And then coming into stillness, notice what you feel. And then see if it feels okay to come up onto your forearms and tuck your toes under. If that's too much for your low back, you can repeat the bottom rocking one that we just did. If it feels okay, use your toes to rock your body forward and back. So we're providing an opportunity for energy to flow from our toes all the way up to the crown of our head. And it might feel like maybe the energy or the movement gets stuck somewhere along the line. Maybe it doesn't move easily all the way up the spine or through the hips. It could feel like it's jamming somewhere. If that's the case, notice that that's happening. If it feels uncomfortable, come back down and do the bottom rocking. So you can alternate between the two, or just pick one that you like the best. And we'll keep going for about 30 more seconds. And then coming back into stillness and just notice what you feel. Now, let's bring ourselves back up and we will set up for Shavasana. So if you would like to put on socks, turn off lights, grab a blanket, anything that you need that will help support you for the next 6 minutes or so. So if you have a bolster, it can be nice to have something or a pillow behind your knees. Maybe something under your hips or behind your head. Just make sure that your head's not being pushed really far forward. And then if you want a blanket or something over top of you to keep you warm. If you have an eye pillow, you can place an eye pillow over your eyes. Your hands can rest on your belly or by your side. So notice if there's anything else that you can do to make yourself even 1% more comfortable. Starting to settle. feel your heels against the ground, the back of your hips, the back of your head. Sensing any other parts of your body in contact with the ground beneath you. Sensing fabric against skin. And air against exposed skin. Breath is soft and gentle, coming in and out through the nostrils. Let it become as quiet as possible. For a moment, notice sensation in your mouth. Feel the roof of your mouth, the inside of your cheeks, and your tongue. Sensing your whole mouth as an orb of radiant sensation. Now sense the inner corners of your eyes. Sensing the inner corners of the eyes. Sensing your eyelids, eyebrows, and forehead. Feel the outer architecture of your ears, your earlobes, and the folds of the upper ears. Sensing the back of your scalp, where your head meets your neck. Where your head contacts the ground. The right side of your scalp. And the left side of your scalp. top of your scalp. Feel your whole head, inside and out, sensing your whole head as an orb of radiant sensation. Gently aware of your body, breathing itself without any effort from you. Feel free to rest here a little bit longer, or you can gently take your time to find your way back up into sitting and enjoy the balance of your day.